just now 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we're going to go through a quick webinar here. My name is Charles Owen. I want to first of all thank everybody for coming. This is proving to be a very popular subject matter, as it should be. It's very important to make sure that you have all your year-end reports. And not only that, but just throughout the year, making sure that you're tracking to plan. So that's what we're going to be covering today. It's year-end reports. And like I said, I think this is going to be a shorter webinar than usual, but again, it's a very important subject matter. So we'll get underway here. So starting with the agenda. So what we're going to talk about here, why are year-end reports important? I think we need to go over some of those issues, what you need to do to prepare for the year-end reporting process, what some of the best practices are. We'll cover some of those, as well as I think preset reports bring a lot to the table, because what they offer you is they offer you a way to not think about what reports you have to generate, and where it just automatically generates them and stores them to a file or a file system somewhere. So we'll talk about exactly how to do that if you're not already doing that. It's a feature that we added to the system years ago, and I'm still surprised when I go into some stores and they're not running these automated preset reports. It really does help with this process. Also, what reports that you want to focus on, looking at some of those reports that you should be running either daily or monthly to give you a real good idea of how you're tracking to your plan, your growth plan. Okay. I want to ask everybody, I'm getting a message that says my audio is not connected. Could everybody hear me? If you could raise your hand, that would be great. Okay. It says we're connected and you can hear me, so great, perfect. Just want to make sure. I'd hate to be doing this for the whole time, and if there's anything that you wanted to interrupt or say during this, please send in a question. Now you have a little dashboard there, and you can add questions to this. I'll address the questions at the end of the webinar. All right, so let's get started. Why are these important? Well, we capture a lot of important information that otherwise may not be able to go back into time and see. So these are snapshots in time. Some of these reports are, two in particular, which we'll be talking about. But that's very important that you capture that data. If not, you can still go back and we can help you with restoring a copy of your backup and running those reports. So it's still possible to do. It's just a big headache, and it might cost you a lot of extra money. It provides vital information for your general ledger and your year-end taxes. It eliminates manual year-end inventory counting. How does it do that? Well, there's some best practices you have to follow in order to run this, but we're talking about basically your managing your inventory. And at the year-end, last thing you want to do is have to hire your entire family and neighborhood to come in and count your store. This is something that you can knock out just a few minutes of every day to get accomplished. Measure your year-over-year growth and profitability, which is extremely important. Understanding where you're at is the only way to figure out where you're going. You got to know where you're starting from. So it's really important to measure, and we'll go over that as well. Sets the stage for next year. So all the preparation we do now is going to help you in your numbers and your results for next year. Last thing we want to do is catch all this at year end. There's so much going on with your store. You're so busy. Hopefully you're busy and you're just trying to keep up with the customers and their requests and managing inventory and everything else. I think it's really important that we understand that getting everything taken care of as early in the year as possible is the best thing to do, and I think we'll look at some of the reports that'll show you that. And it also helps you stimulate planning and goal setting. So those are why year-end reports are important. Next slide here, how to prepare for year-end reporting. So as I mentioned before, the preset reports are a very important component of this. They're important because, again, you don't want to go in every day or at the end of the month and have to physically generate reports. Some of these screenshots or these snapshot in time reports, like your inventory valuation summary and your accounts receivable summary. These are two reports that are snapshots in time, and it's very important that those get set up. We'll go over and through the process of setting up these preset reports if you don't automatically do it, and we'll talk about the different reports that you should be doing as well a little bit, a couple of slides later here. Perform regular cycle counting. Again, this is something that you don't want to get caught off guard at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter when you don't have your numbers in check. We find that reviewing your inventory is extremely important. Reviewing it for all kinds of things. You know, when you're going through your store and looking at a forfeit section, you want to check and make sure that the right price is on the right tag, the right items are on the right peg. You want to make sure they're dusted, it's well lit, it's presentable. And oh, by the way, since you're reviewing your inventory, you should count it while you're doing that as well, so you can find shrinkage and theft and other things as well while you're doing that. And if you do this religiously and make it a habitual thing to do, you know, at the end of the year, it's real simple. You just press a button and it produces tells you what your inventory is. All right. Sell off as many non-performing assets as possible. So try to get rid of those non-performing, those items that aren't turning. Put them on the sale table, get rid of them, bring in new lines, do things to really refresh your store to appeal to more customers, not only to your existing customers, but also to a wider breadth of customers as well. If you use Paladin's suggested order report, more than likely you're gaining a lot in the way of additional capital that you're pulling out of your inventory. At the same time, you're hopefully getting more customers because you have less holes on your shelf. So all of those things will help you manage your store and increase increase your profits. But getting rid of and selling all those items is really important to do, and replacing those with new lines. So take some of that money you're pulling out of your inventory and invest it back into your store. Increase collections of outstanding debt, always an important thing. And by the way, if you're not fancying the being the bank and managing all that money, there are options and alternatives. We do hook up with Blue Tarp. They're a company that will buy your AR from you for a fee. It's a percentage, but they will take all those AR accounts and all that debt from you, give you a check, and then manage it from that point forward. We integrate with Blue Tarp. It's been a fabulous service for a lot of people that are just kind of hanging on. And, when you have $100,000 to $500,000 outstanding debt that people owe you, it really helps to bring that in. You can do that. In Paladin, we can activate a payment type called Blue Tarp. It takes the place of the account payment button, and it interacts in real time with the Blue Tarp, making sure that they have approval to add more credit and so on. And they do all the collections. It's a fabulous service, but that is another way to do it. But it's an important activity to do at year end. Make sure you get as much debt brought into your store, get rid of the outstanding debt that you have. Okay, list the materials that your accountant requires. So you need to get a list. You need to have your accountant involved in what numbers they're needing out of Paladin. If you need help, if you don't understand some of the things that are required and you want to call our support for help, feel free to do that, and we'll be able to hopefully get you to the right area of the system. And then also to determine your store's growth metrics for success, it's something you should do as part of your goal setting. And part of understanding where your store is at today and where you're going in the future is very important. We have a website. If you go to our main website, paladinpointorsale.com, up in the right-hand corner, there's a little icon up there that says websites. If you drop that down, there's an area there called retail science. Retail Science is chock full of all kinds of information about how you can be more successful at retailing. Also in there is a retailer's workbox or toolbox, which is it has several forms in there. One is a one-page goal setting, another one is a project, one-page project sheet. So if you identify some different goals for your store, different programs and such to implement over the year, you can fill out these project sheets, give them to your managers, and have them execute on those to try, again, to grow your store. But also measuring your store where it is very important because, again, in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you're coming from. And at the end of each year, you can compare it to year over year. Now, we give you the tools in Paladin, but there are some additional things that you might want to do as well. All right, let's go on to the next slide here. Follow the best practices. So again, as I mentioned, I can't stress enough, the reviewing of your inventory, cycle counting is extremely important to do. It really helps bring value to that suggested order report that you run and tightens it up tremendously, as well as your inventory valuation summary report at the end of the year. Set up monthly preset reports. We'll show you how to do that. Review your department margins and GMROI, gross margin return on investment. Under the Retail Science, we have a whole description of what GMROI is. We also have tools to help you figure out what your GMROI is at your store. And then also it's also on the inventory valuation summary report on the right-hand column. So those are different areas to look for that. Archive end of the month backup files. So this is important. All day, or every day I should say, your system runs a backup. At least it should be running a backup. If not, you should be running a backup. There is a scheduler in the system, but sometimes that gets whacked and it no longer makes backups. So the first thing you have to make sure is your system performing a backup? Make sure it is. And you can look at, there's a little backup, Paladin backup icon on your desktop. You just double click that and boom. You can, you can see all the backups that are done. Now, you have to make sure they're the right size and they're being performed on the right terminal. They have to be performed on that terminal, usually terminal number 1. And if you're one of those stores that does have an appliance that's offloading those responsibilities, then we are managing that backup process for you. That is an option that we have. It's an appliance. It takes the database responsibilities from your work terminals, from your end user terminals or your back office terminals, and it puts on a dedicated device. This dedicated device is 100% managed by us. It's called an appliance, and it's roughly $1,900 if you want to buy one of those. Helps with performance incredibly. So that's it also helps with security. It helps in maintaining where we're maintaining the backups as well in the cloud. However, back to the backups on your file system. You got to free up space. Backups is going to hog the majority of your space on the system. So if you go to that backup icon, you click on it, and you see gobs of data in there, taking up gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of data. We got to clear that out. But it's always good to leave the last day of the month, the 30th, the 31st, or what have you, there a year back. So it's good because you can always go back to that end month, whether it's a December, January, July, whatever, and you can recapture information if you needed to for that particular time period. Is it necessary? Only for a couple of reports, as I mentioned, the inventory valuation summary report, as well as the accounts receivables summary report. Other than that, you should be able to get the information out of your system and you can go back years. If you need to go back more years than you can see on your screen, we can activate that for you. We limit access to some of the reports going back because just performance reasons, but the data is always there. So free up that space. Make sure you don't run into space problems with your hard drive. Okay, keep the operating system updated. Again, if you go with this appliance, this piece that we manage 100%, we manage the operating system on that particular device. It actually runs a different operating system, which is more enterprise ready, where it's 24/7. It's more of a server-based operating system. But the operating systems, the Windows 10 and 7 and so on that you might have on your terminals, they need to be updated on a regular basis. Just make sure not to get caught off guard. Do it in an off time, because some of these updates, as you know, can just consume several hours. All right, and then continue to stay up to date with the new features in the help portal. How to set up, test, and automate preset reports. So this is it, guys. This is the information. This is pulled right from our knowledge-based system. It goes through the 9-step process. Bring up Paladin reports. Click on, go to the report that you want. Click create preset, and it just kind of walks you through the process. Very simple process to do. I will demonstrate for you, kind of show you a screen what it looks like. So here's the reports area. And in this, we have chosen to get into accounts receivable, and you see there are 3 options there: cash management, accounting reports, and statement generation. Down below, I'm going to blow this up a little bit, where you can see the bar at the bottom, and we have right now 4 different preset reports set up. Now, 2 of them are push button reports. They're revenue and register reports of the daily, revenue and daily register reconciliation report. Those you just press F1 or F2. It's a hotkey, and it goes directly to and pulls up that report. You don't have to go through any of the criteria setting or any of that, or sort ordering. That's already been done when you save this report. It's just going to generate the report for today. Okay, the ones that have pardon me, the little clock in the top right hand corner means that it's set up for a scheduled report, meaning it's going to run either daily, weekly, end of month, and so on. And you can determine what that time interval is. Where does it store it? Well, in your setup, under File Setup Company tab, there's an area called Reports Options. Down below, where it's circled in red, the scheduled report time, in this case, it says 10:15 p.m. It will run the reports. Now, it's important that your terminal be on during that time, otherwise it cannot run the report. So typically you want to leave that terminal 1 on so that it can run this process at that point. Below that, it says where it's going to be stored on the network share. And if you need help with that, we can help with that as well in service. But it will create a folder, in this case under a public site within our own domain, and that way anybody can access reports from any terminal. All right, to get to the reports, going back here on the bottom, you see there actually the F10 key says recall reports. That's how you would get to those reports that are run automatically. All right, so what are some of the reports that are those reports that you should be interested in running, that you should run on a regular basis? I think it's important to run the inventory evaluation summary report for a number of reasons. You can run this report on the last day of your fiscal year end, or you can run it anytime. You can run it right now. It's no skin off your back. It doesn't do anything. There's no batching required with Paladin. As you know, it's all real-time dynamic information that you run at all times. This report should run really quickly, and it's going through your 20, 30, 40,000 items in a matter of split seconds and produces the results. And some really true telling numbers are there. One of them at the right-hand side, the far right-hand side, is gross margin return on investment. Gives you a percentage. Obviously, one things that we teach and we preach is that 300% GMROI is a good number. 130% is not a good number, only because what that's saying, if it's 130% GMROI, in essence, that's saying that you get $1.30 back for every dollar you invest, which means you get 30 cents profit. But is that profit? No, that's actually that, and maybe even double that will be running all of your expenses and just your general operations, and that's not a good number. So you want to get that number up. And some items, loss leaders, you're not going to be making a good margin on them. Some other items you're going to be struggling with on the lumber and building material side, only because you got to get what you get when you get it. And you're going to be sitting on a lot of inventory typically on some of those items, and therefore your GMROI might not be as impressive. but you should be profitable. That's the goal, and this will at least let you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your store. So to get the inventory valuation summary report, it's real simple. You just go back to reports, you go to inventory, general, and on the right-hand side it says inventory valuation summary. Accounting summary report is another one that's a split time, shot in time. What is that called? Anyway, I'm blanking out at the moment. It's typical. It's a snapshot in time. That's the word I'm looking for. So inventory valuation summary and accounting summary reports are the only two that are snapshots in time. Everything else you should be able to go retroactively back in and produce those reports. The accounting summary report, again, should also be run at the end of the day at the fiscal year end. But if you set this up as a preset, you're going to have every month end in your system. And if you happen to come in over the holiday and you get there back in the store on January 3rd and go, oh my gosh, I forgot to run my inventory valuation summary and accounting summary report, you're okay. You should be protected because you should have gone in prior to that time and created a preset report that runs automatically. Some of the other reports that are very important, comparative revenue report, you probably run this report all the time. It's a very typical one. This might be on your phone where you can run the mobile app on your cell phone and see exactly what your store is reporting at any given time from anywhere in the world. You can see that report on your phone. And this report is important because it really helps you understand, either by department or based on class or location or customer type, as there's just and department. It lets you see how you're performing in that particular segment. Now, when you see a margin that's negative or an upside down margin, that's something that needs to be corrected sooner than later. And oftentimes we see problems with dump SKUs. If there isn't a reference margin set, it's really important. You can watch the reference margin webinar, which will take you through all the different ways and all the different things that reference margins will do for you. I think that's very important. And then also the inventory count list is another one of those reports that gives you kind of a quick 50,000 foot view level of how your store is performing. And the inventory count list is just a dump of your data, but it's very specific columns. I think it's maybe 20 columns or so, but it's chock full of good information. One of them is margin. You can sort by margin and look at your negative margins, and it will show you all the items that you're actually conceivably selling for less than you paid for them. In reality, it's probably something like a minimum margin set wrong, or maybe the packaging is different, or the unit of measure is different than what you should be selling it as. Oftentimes, we have cashiers that don't necessarily understand what they should be doing, and when they get to an item where it says it's $5 for a fastener and it's really 5 cents, if they discount that $5 to 5 cents, boom, they just got an upside down margin, because more than likely it's wanting to charge for the box as opposed to the each. So that's the biggest problem that we find on upside down margins, and that can be easily corrected. Paladin has a phenomenal way, a very elegant way of handling margins in the system. So there should be no negative margins in your system if it is set up correctly. Okay, that, my friends, is about it. I'm a little bit more talkative than I normally am at these webinars this morning, so I went 24 minutes. I appreciate your time. And if you want to learn more about this this particular topic, I've got some articles here. This webinar, as well as the presentation that you're looking at, will be available on our website under the knowledge base or webinars section of our help area. Now, you can get to help just at the very top of the Paladin screen. It says help. You can click on that. You can see webinars, training videos, knowledge base, and so on. If you're not at the store at the moment and you want to see those videos or articles, you can always go to our website, paladinpointofsale.com, top right-hand corner where it says websites. drop it down to Help Portal, and that gets you to the same information. I see that there are a few questions here, and I just want to see if I can get to them. Let me see if I can bring them up, make them a little bigger here. So I appreciate the feedback. I need to bring this over to my big screen here. Let's see if I can get something here. All right. I don't know if you can see these questions, but what if you only have inventory summary and account summary showing on your buttons? Do we need an update? No, I think you're okay. If you see inventory summary report and accounting summary buttons on the bottom, and they have that little clock in the bottom right-hand corner, you should be good. And to check that, all you have to do is click on the recall preset reports, and you should see a long list of reports. If you don't, yes, then there is a problem. We need to make sure that every month at month end, it is creating the report that you need. If not, it won't do it at the end of the year. So that does need to be corrected. So that's an excellent question. And I'm pretty sure, here we go. Here's another question. If you delete the backups, will the reports still be available? All the reports will always be available at all times in the past, even if you don't have a backup, excluding 2 reports, right? You know those 2 reports by now. It's the inventory valuation summary report, because it's a snapshot in time, and the other one is the accounting summary report, which is another snapshot in time. If you delete all the backups and yet you want to go back in time and run the inventory valuation summary or accounting summary report, you will not be able to run it if you don't have the backup. That's precisely why I say it's important to, when you're flushing out your backups, leave at least 1 in there per month, and that would be at the end of the month. If you wanted to be on the safe side, you can store the first of the month and the last of the month and just save those 2 backups. All the others you can throw out. So that's another good question. Let's see if make sure I got all these questions. Yeah, I think that was it. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. Do I need to set the preset reports on the server computer, or can I set on another computer? In the you should be okay running those reports from any terminal. Okay. The important thing is where you store those preset reports is important, and you want to make sure if you want everybody to have access to those reports, they need to go on a shared network file system somewhere, and that's just so that everybody can get access to those reports. But no, you should be able to run those. You don't have to be on the server to run those reports. You only need to be on the server or the terminal 1 when you're actually doing a backup. Let's see if that's it. On your sample, you had 4 buttons showing on the report screen. Do we need those other 2 buttons? You don't need anything. This is just for convenience, just for your own convenience. So if you wanted to do a revenue report and a reconciliation report, a till reconciliation report, those are the other 2 that are on there. It just gives you a 1 push button instead of having to bring up the menu item, select the different criteria, select the date range, whatever else, and it just automates that whole process. So it makes it literally a 1 push button report, which is pretty nice. All right, now I'm at the end of my questions. Okay, I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for attending. We will have more of these webinars. Obviously, we do them about twice a month now, I think, on a regular basis. There's all kinds of webinars that are stored on our help portal that you can get to at all times and any time. So I am going to sign off here. Again, I want to thank everybody for your time. I don't know what the next topic is, but I'm sure it will be interesting. And I hope to see you next time as well. So again, to get to any of these reports, you can get to our help portal and do a search there. Thank you all. And I am going to be heading out. Listen, everybody have a great holiday. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and we're just a week or so away from, or a couple of weeks away from Christmas and another batch of holidays. I hope you have great success over this time, and also you get some good quality time with your family. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.